call the Governance and Operations Committee meeting of Monday, June the 14th to order. We have one delegation today. We'd like to welcome Eric Rooney, the regional. Sorry. Something's playing in the background here. All right, we'll start again. Welcome, Aaron Rooney. He's the regional coordinator for the rural and northern immigration pilot. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4 unknown people, and I'm assuming they're part of the delegation. So either Aaron, you can introduce them for us. We all know Eric from Community Futures, but the other 3 we're not sure of. So you may want to introduce them to the rest of council.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, as Councillor Santorini said, I'm Aaron Rooney, the coordinator for the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot in the West Kootenays, and I'm joined today with Andrea Wilkie, the Executive Director for Community Futures Central Kootenay, Carolyn Amantea at Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy. We've got Scott Fellman in Ottawa, who's our dedicated outreach officer with Immigration Refugee Citizenship Canada, Rebecca Richards at LCIC in Trail. And I'm going to just let Andrea do a quick introduction for us today.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks for that, Aaron. And as I was saying earlier, I think that's indicative of a great partnership. When you ask for a delegation and this many people show up at the table, it's because it really has been a partnered initiative. And so that's why we're all here today. So I thought I'd provide a bit of context as to why we embarked on the West Kootenay Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot. As we know, like many rural regions, the West Kootenay has economic and demographic challenges, including outmigration of youth, aging populations, and labor market shortages. And I think post-COVID, that's going to be the case even more so. We know workforce shortages are going to be more of an issue than ever. So when the opportunity came up to bid to be one of 11 pilot communities across Canada as part of the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, I know my office received phone calls from some employers, people like Sutco Transportation, Selkirk College, and that I reached out to my counterparts around the region. So I talked to the folks in Castlegar, I talked to Eric in Trail, I talked to Rebecca at the Lower Columbia Initiatives Corporation, and learned that the LCIC was actually looking at submitting an application as well. So we got together and talked and said, you know what, we're going to be stronger as a region with this application. Let's come together as a region. We know that people live in one part of our region, work in another part of our region. And so really it's going to be advantageous to apply as the West Kootenay. So that's what we did. We submitted an application as the West Kootenay region, and we were named as one of 11 communities in Canada, one of 2 communities in BC, the other being the North Okanagan. We brought in Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy as a partner, and we were super happy to learn that we were we were a successful proponent. So we have this pilot initiative taking place in our region over a 3-year timeframe. We're just about 1.5 years in. And I'll turn it over to Aaron to tell you more about it.
Great, thanks, Andrea. I'm going to jump right in and share a presentation.
Okay.
And while you're doing that, Aaron, one thing to add is that the local government was really supportive with our application and provided letters of support. So thanks to the City of Trail for your support when we bid on this initiative.
Super. Can everyone see my slideshow? Great. Yeah, so as Andrea mentioned, we're in the region of the whole West Kootenays, and I'm just going to give a little overview of RNIP. So what is RNIP? It's a community-based immigration pilot that tests targeted attraction and settlement approaches at the local level. It's a pathway to permanent residency program, so it does give potential applicants permanent residency if they're successful. The guiding principles is it's community driven and responsive to local economic development needs. It's focused on retention and economic independence of newcomers. It's complementary to other federal and provincial immigration initiatives. So it's not just the one program in the region that people can access. Part of the solution, not the only solution. Candidates do need to meet most of these 7 requirements. Some candidates might be exempted from work experience or education. It depends. So they do need to meet a certain level of education, work experience, they all will need an offer of employment. They need to meet a certain level of language, English or French. We do highly look at people who have a stronger intent to reside in our region. They potentially need to meet some settlement funds, and they need a community recommendation from our steering committee that meets monthly. And then they're eligible to apply for permanent residency under RNIP if they receive a recommendation. The intent to reside piece, it must be shown by the applicant and is based on information available at the time of assessment. Intention to reside is a forward-looking assessment. Some of the factors that are examined to establish intention to reside can include knowledge of the community, actions taken to put plans into place to establish in the community, linkages to the community, linkages to other communities around. The West Kootenay RNIP has created a community criteria point-based ranking system so we can accept the best candidates for the region. Here's a bit of a process flow slide on how it works to apply for the pilot. So either a candidate can approach us or an employer can approach the pilot and ask for information. And then the candidate can submit an application for recommendation. So that includes, some documents from employers, and then we check all their, verify all their documentation. The community reviews applications and selects best fit for candidates for the region. The community recommends candidates, making them eligible to apply to IRCC, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, for permanent residency. The candidate submits permanent residency application to IRCC, then the candidate is assessed against federal selection criteria and admissibility requirements, and they obtain permanent residency. This is a slide just explaining so far how Trail has used the pilot. And so we launched in just over a year ago in May 2020. So up until this date, we've seen 14 Trail employers have used RNIP for 24 primary applicants, then 9 accompanying spouses and 3 children in the region in Trail. All Trail recommendations were Selkirk graduates. And the nationality breakdown, we've had 23 from India and 1 from China. Overall, the whole region, we've seen 68 employers have used RNIP since May 2020. So employers have used the pilot multiple times because we've given 118 recommendations since May 2020. And specifically Trail employers, we've seen Rosewood Village, a seniors home, Sunningdale Children's Center, Safety Net Security, which is the contract at Tech, the Colander Restaurant, Coastal Corrosion Services, Chevron, Husky, McDonald's, and Subway to name them all. And again, multiple uses out of some of them. Here's a breakdown of all the recommendations that have been given in the region. So Trail has been is given 20%, Castlegar 22, Nelson 43, Salmo 7, Rossland 3, Fruitvale 3, and the rest here, Slocan, Crescent Valley, and Ainsworth 3%. So a good diversification throughout the whole region of employers accessing the pilot. This slide depicts a little bit of the eligibility and NOC. NOC stands for National Occupation Classification. So every job in Canada has a specific NOC code. So the pilot's available till December 2022 with approximately 150 allocations per year. Employers must be vetted by RNIP to be eligible to participate. There are priority sectors that are exempt from meeting the minimum amount of points, such as truck driver, healthcare aides, early childhood educator. We require that people who apply to the pilot are receiving a minimum wage of at least $17 an hour if they live in the region, or $22 an hour if they're coming from outside of the region or outside of Canada. We do have an employer-specific work permit that's available for 1 year for candidates. And RNIP, we partnered with Columbia Basin Alliance for Literacy, as Andrea mentioned, and they do provide settlement supports to the candidates who receive recommendations. There's our website, if you want more information, and I'm always available for more information at this email. And we also have one slide here that I'm going to share that Carolyn at CBAL will speak to, and we can have some questions after that if you'd like.
Thanks, Erin. So CBAL was a natural fit with this project because we do hold a federal contract with Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada already to provide settlement services to newcomers to our area. So there's a bit of a misnomer around settlement services. We're not in the business of bringing people here, but once people are here, it's really important that they are feeling valued, feeling like they're contributing to our society. And so really, people with permanent residency have freedom of mobility. So they could choose, once they receive permanent residency, to move out of the area. Our goal with this pilot is to keep them in the area, and we can provide all sorts of supports to ensure that that happens. So really, we look at a needs and assets based approach. We meet with potential clients if they're overseas or once they've arrived, and see what do they need and what can they bring to our communities. We provide them information and orientation to our communities, to Canada in general. We provide them community connections. So, if you've got a kid who's really active in soccer in their home country and now they're here, how do we connect them with a soccer team or a league here? And then, of course, we can provide language training. Now, most of these RNIP candidates come with really excellent language skills, but that doesn't mean that their family members or family members down the road will have those language skills as well. So we provide all of those services for free, regardless of the pilot or not. But we know that keeping people in our communities, our colleague Scott in Ottawa likes to call it the community hug. And years ago, you might remember the Welcome BC initiative, the Welcome Map, and all of those things. It's still more than ever important. Settlement is a very divisive sort of topic these days. There's a high profile of Indian nationals in the community. And so we can provide education and support to employers, to community groups, and to other stakeholders on how to create that welcoming work environment, welcoming school environment, and welcoming community environment. Of course, we have a lot of support services available to these clients as well. So in terms of transportation, child minding and translation, just to name a few. But it's really about us getting people to feel well and happy here so that they stay here and then contribute meaningfully to our greater community. And that's it for me, Erin.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you,
I'm going to stop sharing, and if there's some questions, be happy to hear them.
Lisa? Mayor Payson?
Yeah, thanks for that presentation. That was great. It was nice and comprehensive. So this might be for the group, but also for Rebecca. So about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I had a conversation with Mayor Moore from Rosslyn and Tim Gruette on a program called the BC PNP Entrepreneur Immigration Regional Pilot, and that was up for renewal. Is this exactly the same program? Is it a parallel program? Is it a different program? What is
it? Totally different program. So the BC PNP program is looking at bringing sort of foreign investors. So those people who are in a position to start their own businesses in the area. And so they have to meet much more significant financial criteria, and they also have to fit within those industry codes that I believe that Tim was speaking with you about. So that's a totally separate program from this one, which this one is more aimed at gaining permanent residency for immigrants who are already part of the community.
Okay, so just as a supplemental, so Rebecca, then are you going to be carrying forward with the BC PNP Entrepreneur Immigration Program and then keep council informed on that?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification.
They can apply for under the provincial nominee program and establish a business in Trail. I mean, anybody has access to the PNP program, right?
Yes, I believe so. There are several different streams of the BC PNP program, but yes, that's true.
Okay, thank you.
I can add to that just a point of clarification. So the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot is really about attracting and retaining workforce. So it's really about the employee side of things and addressing workforce shortages.
Right. And the other is for entrepreneurship and new business starts, right? Gotcha. Any other comments or questions from council? If not, I have a couple. Do most of your applications come from individuals from their point of origin, or have most of them already taken residence somewhere in British Columbia or around Canada?
Yeah, that's a great question, Counselor. Most of them are actually living in the region already and have been living here for almost 2 years or longer, because a lot of them are Selkirk graduates. So we're looking at close to something like 95% of all applicants so far have been living in the region already.
Okay. And my other question was employers who apply for access to those interested in being part of the program, do they have to provide any type of assurance or guarantee in terms of employment or length of employment?
Absolutely. So there's a federal criteria, and we also have our own employer eligibility as a pilot. And the federal criteria is that the job must be 30 hours a week or more. And it
Right.
has to be a permanent job, and it can't be seasonal. So it has to be permanent, ongoing, no end date, 30 hours a week or more. And as a pilot, we also asked that employers either have been in business for 2 years or longer in the region, or have made a significant investment of $200,000 or more in the region.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we want to make sure that we're aligning people with jobs that are going to be good long-term.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Eleanor?
How many people can you tell us that stay in the city of Trail or go elsewhere?
That's the golden question. We really we're trying very hard to make sure people do feel welcome and want to stay long term. So as I mentioned, the pilot only started in May 2020. So up until this point, anybody who applied very early on in the pilot are just starting to see that they're getting the permanent residency. So we've received about maybe 15 people out of 118 who now have permanent residency. So hopefully they're staying in the region and yeah, that they're making this their long-term home. So we don't have those numbers yet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At least it gives them an opportunity to see what we have to offer, and then ultimately the decision is theirs, but at least you have a chance that they'll stay, whereas opposed if they didn't get a chance to come here, they probably would never know about the place. So
that's right. And a lot of them have been working for that same employer that, you know, now maybe going on 2-3 years. So they've developed a relationship, or
Yeah.
they've gained more experience that maybe can take them on to further employment opportunities in the region as well.
awesome. Well, it doesn't appear to be any other questions from council. So Aaron and the rest of the delegation, thanks very much for presenting this program to us. And we bid you success, and hopefully we can fill some much needed gaps in some of the selected industries where they're having problems in attracting and retaining employees. So thank you for your efforts and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much for
Thank you
having
very
us.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having
everyone.
us.
Thank you. Bye.
Nice.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, moving right along, we'll move on to operational reports, and you have before you the Public Works Department report. And welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Councilor Santori.
And the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the Public Works Engineering and Cemetery Operations Report. So I will jump right into the administration. So human resources, in the fall, we'd hired a new utility distribution operator to work in the utilities department. We currently have 2 employees away on extended leaves of absence. When an employee goes off on an extended leave, we are obligated under the collective agreement to post the position when it's going to be 30 days or greater. So when you do that, you create a lot of ripple effects down below. So the next section for temporary transfers reflects the positions that were posted in relationship to one of the extended leaves anyway. So the first item, though, was a carpenter was transferred to the Parks and Recreation Department. That was not impacted by the leaves of absence. That was a move that was made to try and give the Parks and Recreation Department an opportunity to catch up on some of their bigger projects which they were working on, and give them direct control over one of the city's carpenters. So the carpenter wasn't reporting to Public Works and then reporting down to Parks and Recreation all on the same day. So operational efficiencies there. The next one, grounds and roads employee was transferred from senior equipment operator to the cemetery caretaker labor position. This is a direct transfer due to one of those extended leaves. The cemetery caretaker labor injured his arm. So another move was a grounds and roads employee was transferred from 4x4 shift sweeper operator to a senior equipment operator position. And he is subsequently posted over to 4x4 shift / parks and irrigation labor. Another move was one of the grounds and roads employees transferred from 4x4 public shift or public works, 4x4 shift public works labor to a 4x4 shift sweeper operator position. And another move was grounds and roads employee transfer from irrigation operator / public works labor to a certified journeyman mechanic position. And another move was grounds and roads employee was transferred from 4x4 shift / parks and irrigation labor to the irrigation operator / public works labor position. So all very convoluted job descriptions there, but it's all just moves within the grounds and roads department. Temporary seasonal employees, we have kept one of the winter night shift operators. He remains on as a temporary full-time 4x4 shift / public works labor. And another seasonal winter shift operator remains employed as a temporary full-time public works laborer / certified journeyman carpenter relief. That position was created to backfill our carpenters when they were on vacation. We have 5 summer students working with us this year. We have 2 at the Mountain View Cemetery. Then we have 2 working in the parks maintenance crews out doing grass cutting and other activities. And we have 1 student working as warehouse support. And typically, you may have recalled, we had a student as a hired on for handrail painting, and that's what that student will do as well. We have upcoming training tomorrow and Wednesday for confined space. It's been difficult to schedule any training throughout the pandemic, so it's good to see that we were able to bring in some trainers to keep our certifications current. Seasonal policies in effect. We currently have the water conservation measures in effect from June through September. And we also completed the residential spring cleanup April 12th to the 23rd. Any questions on human resources before I carry on to projects?
Any questions of Chris?
No.
Carry on, Chris.
Okay, so some capital project highlights for you. Our Violin Lake and Cambridge Reservoir Dam decommissioning program is moving along, and we are hoping to move into some physical decommissioning activities in early August. So we'll see some action up there.
On that note, Chris, Robert had brought up grants that have been available for some of these projects. Do we have any current applications for grants in that area?
We do have current applications.
Okay.
And that's all I can say on that. We have applied for grants at this point.
Okay. No indication as to whether they look good or not?
I believe we were shortlisted on 2 of the grants.
Okay.
That's all I know for now.
Thanks, Chris.
Down at Jarrow Park, we had some major renovations down there and replaced the playground structure and a swing set. And we've completed the site restorations in the spring. So that park is looking fantastic down there. And the Butler Park lighting and poles. So we managed to get all the lights and poles removed and the site restored in preparation for play this spring and summer. So I understand that they are utilizing the field. And if you haven't been down there yet, you should go down. It actually looks fantastic.
Looks good. On that note, how are we doing with the cost estimate? I think the last time we left this discussion, it was staff's hope that council could proceed in the fall following this year's baseball season. Are we getting closer to seeing a report on the cost of the light replacement and netting?
We are. I had a discussion this morning with engineering technician Kyle McCormick, and he's confident he will have pricing available for the June 28th GOC.
Awesome. Thanks.
So an operational report will be forthcoming.
Thank you.
Sandy,
Yes.
there is some money available through CBT, Chris, for sports, eh? Did you take a look at that at all?
I have not, but I will make a note of it.
Okay, I was just talking to one of the people there, one of the directors at CBT.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Carry on, Chris. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there, Carol. You're on mute.
Who is it? You're on mute.
So Chris, I just wanted to ask a question on the lighting for Butler Park. Going back and thinking back even maybe 30 years ago, we had a lot of ball competitions going in Butler Park and a lot of different ball groups in the senior level. And that seems to have diminished over the year. I just wondered, have we taken a look at the overall availability of Butler Park through the ball season during the daylight hours and compared it to how many people would be requesting evening ball games and whether or not we feel it's worth us to invest that money right now in night lighting? In other words, could all the ball games be accommodated during the daylight hours?
That will, oh, sorry.
I can answer that because that question was asked before. Yeah, you could accommodate baseball. However, the league that they're currently playing in, they would not be able to play in because these teams are coming in from out of town, which would require them to play night baseball games. And the other was we could never host a provincial or national event without
lighting.
the lights, because we don't have a secondary ballpark that would accommodate the amount of use that you would need during those events.
For a tournament. All right, thank you.
Sorry, Chris.
That's good. Was a good answer. Okay, to carry on, a project of note was the January 20th, 21 windstorm. And as you all recall, it was quite devastating for the community, took down a lot of trees. However, we have managed to complete all the restoration work following the windstorm. So things are looking good out there. Operations and maintenance. In our engineering department, we're currently beta testing ArcGIS Professional. That's it'll be beneficial to the operations if we can manage to move to that software. Grounds and roads department. So some stats I'm going to give you are recorded from October through March. And that's my typical reporting time. So that's what I asked my managers to provide. So grounds and roads, over the winter, we had a total of 54 inches of snow accumulations. And we cleaned out downtown 3 times. We've also managed to paint and complete minor repairs on 5 full sets of covered stairs in West Trail. Purchasing mechanical department, from October to March, we completed 471 work orders. And that was while we were down 1 mechanic. So that was with 2 mechanics out of 3. And since, or from October through March, the fleet has consumed 81,219 liters of fuel. Just thought that was an interesting stat to throw out there.
Chris, on that, just a point of interest, do you know of any municipalities or does the product even exist with respect to electric fleets?
That's that question.
We are going to, well, we're in the process of trying to figure out how to develop a electric fleet conversion program. So we'll most likely be sourcing a consultant that can help us move in that direction.
Okay.
So it would take a whole bunch of infrastructure out of Public Works to manage that. So
Okay, I was just curious. Thanks.
it is on the radar.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, in the utilities department, from October through March, they completed 8 emergency water main and 9 emergency water service repairs, including the major water transmission line leak on Trails Lakes Drive last fall. And they have since completed some major upgrades to the Sunnydale and Robertson Street lift stations, which included the replacement of all pumps in those lift stations. So they're working quite well now. Any questions on projects before I move on to the council resolutions? Okay, outstanding council resolution items. So Butler Park netting and lighting design. So we're awaiting the final pole-based design. And as I stated earlier, engineering technician Kyle McCormick feels confident we'll have those numbers available for the June 28th meeting. The FCM MAMP grant application is still underway. I am working with a consultant on getting that application in. And the off-leash dog park feasibility review arrangements to secure consulting services are underway. And Grounds and Roads Superintendent David Moorhead has been in discussions with a consultant with regards to that. So some upcoming priorities, projects and priorities. So we are hoping to reinitiate the asset management planning process shortly. Utilities continues with directional flushing program, and Grounds and Roads will work on annual inspections, including city sidewalks, the Columbia River Skywalk, and the Victoria Street Bridge lighting. And that's all I have.
Okay, I have a question, Chris. What's the update on the Hillside Hazelwood reconstruct on the at the Y?
I have a report submitted for that.
Later on.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Okay, thank you.
That's item 4.4 in the agenda.
There it is. Thanks.
Okay.
Any questions? of
Chris, I just had one quick question, Chris. On the snow removal accumulation, could you just give us an estimate percentage of what we used in the budget?
On the what, sorry?
On the cost of snow removal, what was the percentage that we probably used up in this snow season? I don't think we spent all the budget money allocated for snow removal, did we?
Well, we didn't, and that's a difficult one to really talk about because we have a portion of the budget in 2020 and a portion of the budget in 2021.
Okay.
So in comparison, the 2021 expense from January to the end of the season was only 30% as compared to 2020 when the expense was around 65%. So we didn't use as much budget throughout the winter season as the winter season as we typically would.
That's what I was waiting for you to say. Thank you.
Go ahead, Robert.
If you want to, Chris, if you want to talk to anybody down there they got about $680,000 for the dam. It's Goran who's down at the regional district. And I don't have all the details on it, but we weren't expecting that big a grant. And we have almost 700 grand to fix that dam at Saddle Lake. Thank you.
Any other questions of Chris?
I'll move receipt of the Public Works Department operational report.
Okay, moved by Mayor Payson. Do we have a seconder?
Seconded.
Carol, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 3.1 Parks and Rec. Welcome, Trish. And Tricia
Good
wants
afternoon,
more-
Mayor and Council.
and Tricia's here to ask for more money.
No, the first report's about charging people a little more money
Well,
for
that's
our
what I meant.
services. Little different. So the first report on our agenda that I'm involved with is the fees and charges bylaw for Parks and Recreation. So this is a bylaw that we bring forward annually at approximately this time every year. The bylaw itself reflects all of the various fees and charges that the department charges for facility rentals, admissions, and memberships, and equipment rentals, anything that goes on within our public facilities. The only fees that actually are not included in the bylaw are things for, say, like a registered program, like a swimming lesson or an art class or a fitness program, something like that. So a decision for us is important to be made in relation to the fees and charges bylaw. We start to gear up in July for all of our ice rental contracts and get the whole next seasons underway. And so we traditionally adopt the bylaw in the summer so that we're ready to go for our fall programming. So just a couple little points of interest. So the bylaw has traditionally reflected the increase in labor costs, which are always governed by the collective agreement. And so in the fall of 2020, we negotiated a collective agreement that'll see a 2% increase in wages over this coming year. So the bylaw does on average reflect that. Of course, you know, when we roll out and round out the numbers, it can be less than 2% or slightly more than 2%. But generally speaking, on average, that's what it comes in at. And from your last meeting, we did add in the 2 new fees in relation to, one new fee that you heard about, which was the commercial use of park space that was dealt with in your last council meeting. And we also have now rolled in a fee for the old library room in the hopes of being able to use that as a public space coming forward this fall and into next year. So those would be the only 2 new fees that you would see in the bylaw. I believe the rest of the report is generally pretty self-explanatory. The bylaw, for everyone's memory, it does include all of our fees related to TRP and non-TRP fees. So you'd see the dual rate system where appropriate, which is basically for all fees throughout the bylaw. And this bylaw has also traditionally included the rollover of your TRP membership for people so that we don't have to go through a whole process of having people reapply into that program. So maybe I will leave it at that with the recommendation that we bring forward, that you endorse the fee increases as presented through the Parks and Recreation Department, and that staff be directed to bring forward an amendment to the bylaw at a future meeting.
Robert?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Do we have any questions? Go ahead, Carol.
Thanks, Councillor Santori. Trish, I just wanted to ask a question about the old library room. I had heard some concerns in the past about acoustics in there. They wanted a large group where there was a presentation going on. Have you got anything to say about that? Could that be an issue, or is this just talk?
Oh, I think it could be. It's on our radar as well, Councillor Adobe. It's in part also because we've removed if you remember, there was like the false ceiling tiles in the old library space that's now like an open ceiling. So until you kind of get people in there and seeing how the space gets used, what works, what the differences are from a fitness class to a meeting to a trade show, it'll be hard to really gauge, but it's definitely on our list. We're working with an acoustic person for the pool this year. And so while he's here this August, we will probably have him go over there and just get a sense as to what he thinks and start getting some preliminary budgeting if we think it's going to become an issue down the line.
Okay. I agree with your approach, by the way. I think that's a good way to tackle it.
With respect to the fees bylaw, Trish, have you had or the staff had any concerns expressed by the public during COVID that bought annual memberships and found that their time was severely restricted because of the restrictions? I know, including myself, on the 20 punch pass, for instance, if you went in and worked in the fitness center in the morning, normally you could go for a swim immediately after. But I know some people were concerned that they had to use another one of the 20 punch passes to go back in and use the pool an hour and a half later. And they felt that that was somewhat unfair and felt that at minimum, if they used the fitness center in the morning, providing they came back the same day, that would be good for the pool. Did you get an overabundance of complaints about that?
It's been crickets on that front, in all honesty, Councillor. Crickets, very quiet. It's been, really? We also had a very liberal refund policy too, right from the early days of COVID to say, as the facilities reopened, to say, if this doesn't work for you, we totally understand. And if you need a refund or want to wait and see how the restrictions change over time, then we were very liberal with that approach. In some cases, we've made some exceptions for people if it was just like there's people doing rehab therapy that I can think of one instance, back about 4 months ago where there was a short period of time where we could kind of manage it administratively. It's not, the systems don't manage it well when you have to sign up and deal with people. So yeah, I'm hoping come September, all will be back to normal and that will all disappear.
Okay, thanks, Trish. All right, moving right along.
Perfect. So we'll move on to the roof report. I believe that's the next one on.
Yeah, item 3.2, the roofing project.
Chair Santori.
Yes.
We need to vote.
Could you pull a vote for item 3.1, the fees and charges bylaw? You do have a motion on the floor for.
But I thought we voted on it.
I didn't catch that, so if you'd.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, sorry.
Aye.
Motion is carried. It was moved by Carol, I believe, and seconded by Lisa.
Moved by Councillor Kashoni and seconded by Councillor Gattafoni Robinson.
I was close. Thank you. Okay, roof rehab.
Great. So this is back to 2 capital projects that we submitted as part of the capital plan for 2021. So we had a roof replacement project for the aquatic center and one for the arena. So back in mid-December, we solicited the services of IRC, who's a company that deals with these types of projects, to get some estimates on these projects that we could then advance and use for budgeting purposes going into 2021. So we used that group, we put the projects out for tender, and we got the results, and they were a little bit shocking to us, meaning that they were substantially over budget compared to the Class A estimates that we had received back in December. So we did ask for some explanation to that. 4.1 does give you a little bit of information related to where that may have come from. For those that have been following the challenges with procurement during COVID, in parts of this, it isn't that much of a surprise. Even just, the basic cost of lumber has gone up, I think 300+% over the last few months that IRC would not have been able to anticipate. So we also had a very limited number of bids that we received. And yeah, I think the timing is challenging trying to do this type of work right now. So in short, we're not able to afford both projects. So the idea is to amalgamate them and just do one this year, with the idea of doing the second roof in 2022. So we would be looking to advance a report later into the fall so that we could be ready to go with that project early in 2022, or as soon as we were able to. So the project that has been suggested is the aquatic center roof. The reason for that is that both roofs have known leak issues, but the aquatic center one is leaking onto some electrical equipment and into the filtration rooms. So there was concern of greater collateral damage if we didn't get that roof done first over the Memorial Center roof. So the idea is to literally bring the projects together, only approve one, which is the aquatic center roof, not award the Memorial Center roof, and bring back a report for council in the fall in relation to that project in a more comprehensive way, with maybe some different numbers and a plan for 2022.
I'll move as recommended. I'll move as recommended by CAO Per Hudoff on page 37.
I'll second recommendation.
You have a question, Eleanor?
Yeah, I do. Trish, do you think that the Trail Memorial Center roof is going to last another year? I mean, nobody knows that, but if it's going, I mean, the damage according to 4.1 is going to be minimal compared to the roof at the aquatic center. But do we think that the other roof is going to last that long?
I think we'll get through the year, Eleanor. Will we get through leak free? Like, I don't know that I could guarantee that. but they're doing some work. They can now, with the full ceiling fully exposed, they can really see into areas that were a little more difficult before. So I think there's hope that it won't be significant. I think we're also coming into a year where people will just be starting to gear up on use of that space, and even organizing of events, that if all years this might be okay, and we'll just sort of have to work through any issues that come up.
Okay, thank you.
So the motion on the floor is to proceed with, as recommended, with the one roof, that being the Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried, but it's shocking that it's basically doubled. Carol?
I have a question. Michelle, perhaps you could answer this for me. If something happens at the Memorial Center and we sustain some major damage, are we covered under our insurance?
Our property insurance would provide coverage, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oops, sorry. Trail Aquatic and Leisure Center hot water heater.
Great, thank you. So this is, again, a capital project that was put forward in 2021 for the replacement of a domestic hot water heater at the Aquatic Center. And when we put it out to tender, the project, that it just came in higher than what the original quotes were that we had received, and unfortunately to the tune of $12,000 to $17,000 more expensive than the quotes that we'd received back in the fall. So in this particular case, there's two different ways that we could go forward with this project. So the hot water tank has to actually be replaced in order to not impact service here at the Aquatic Center. You can imagine the demand on hot water when this building is operational and there's people actually using showers, and we're only ramping up in use now, hopefully, if COVID stays in check. So the proposals received, one was from our service provider, and then we received two different quotes with kind of slightly different options from another service provider. The one, and then Robert has done a bit of a business case analysis as to which way to best proceed. So if we'd gone with the service provider quote, the service provider bid that we actually used to develop the quote back in the original day, the prices just changed over time. It would be like replacing like for like, as far as the equipment is concerned. And that same like piece of equipment with the other bidder was substantially more expensive. So if we were going like for like, we would go with our service provider bid. However, in this case, what Robert's done is there's an on-demand option through another provider that seems like a decent option that has payback that's better than the other piece of equipment over time, as well as will contribute to the use of less natural gas and less greenhouse gas emissions over time. So there's a slightly higher increase in cost at the beginning. However, maybe, I don't know if it's ethically or values-based, thinking of greenhouse gas emissions and ultimately the savings over time, assuming the assumptions are correct, could be the better benefit to the city. So the recommendation is to proceed with it's called the Rene on-demand water heater, and to fund the difference in the costing from the residual funds that will be available from not doing that second roof project, even when we take some of that money towards the other roof project you just talked about.
I'll move approval of the recommendation as indicated.
Moved by Mayor Payson. Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Paul. You had a question, Carol?
Yes, just one thing that I didn't see in the cost. When you go with hot water on demand, I believe in our instance, we'd be looking at probably a full maintenance clean out of the system approximately every 2, maybe maximum 3 years. That's going to get high usage. I know in a home, when you have the system in, it's approximately every 5 years, where of course you have low usage in a smaller system as well. So has anybody considered looking into those costs?
Not, to my knowledge, Councillor Dobie, not specifically, but it would have been, Robert would have probably had those conversations, and it would roll into our service providers, Coral, who does our service provision right now on all of our HVAC equipment. So he probably would have rolled it into that service agreement. So it might look a little different than what you might see, for dealing with, say, your home on hot water on demand system. I don't know, maybe Chris could speak more to the mechanics of how those systems sort of work than I can.
Okay. Thank you.
You have anything you wanted to add, Chris? Or are you familiar with the system?
Yeah, we have a very large Rinnai inline water heater at Public Works, and our internal plumbing staff service it on an annual basis. So it's not that big of a deal if you manage it regularly, as opposed to a home system where you would just have somebody come in every 5 years, like Councillor Dobie mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Eleanor, you had your hand up?
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions?
No.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion?
Mm.
Opposed?
Aye.
The motion is carried. Thanks very much, Trish, for your time. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Robert.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was going to go ahead on the next ones.
Oh,
Trish.
okay. I'm just going to thank Tricia for coming, and like you said, hopefully things will be back to normal as we move on here.
They will be.
So, yes.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Trish.
everyone.
I'll move both trucks, Sandy. 4-1 and 4-2. There's no other bidders.
Okay. Makes it quick for you. Did you want
Makes it
to
easy.
add anything, Chris?
No, if there were no questions, I was just going to
I think
comment.
they're pretty straightforward. So
No other
Yeah.
bidders.
the motion is to move on to item. Can we do both trucks at the same time, Michelle?
It would, administratively, it'd be easier for me if you handled them separately.
Okay.
I knew you were going to say that.
You bet.
Okay, item 4.1, purchase of unit 913 replacement. Moved by Robert, seconded by Lisa. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Next on the agenda is item 4.2, purchase of the replacement of unit 901. Do we have a mover? I think Robert moved the first one.
I'll move that one.
And Lisa, you okay for the second as well then? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
No opposition, the motion is carried.
Can I just ask Chris a question offline here? Sandy
Offline?
mentioned, Chris, that you were going to start looking at the electric cars. Are you going to start doing that with our new purchases?
Yes, we are, and we're hoping to have something in place in 2022.
Okay.
But there are no current fleet replacement options for electric vehicles.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next is item 4.3, water treatment plant valve and actuator upgrades to the tune of $69,000. Chris?
Okay, so up at the water treatment plant, we've been working on the periodic replacement of valves and actuators. And this is just a carryover from last year's program. As noted in the report, there is only one vendor in Western Canada for the valves and actuators that were actually in the plant and that we used last year. So we got a quote from them, and their budget, the capital budget was established based on the quote we received from them, and the pricing did not change from the original quote. So one less casualty in the supply chain issue world. So the recommendation is that council approve the purchase of the water treatment valves and actuators from Summit Valves and Controls in the amount of $68,538, exclusive of taxes.
I'll move that motion.
Moved by Mayor Pazin, seconded by Eleanor. Any questions of Chris? If not, all those in favor?
Hey,
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Next is the Sunningdale Y pedestrian island, and you have a report before you. Chris, you want to elaborate on this? I missed it totally.
That's all right. Yeah, so Grounds and Roads Superintendent David Moorhead put together an update for council with respect to the Sunningdale Y pedestrian island project. We had tendered the project earlier in the year and we didn't receive a single bid as a result of the tender. We suspect it's due to the backlog of other major projects, compliments of the COVID slowdown last year. So everybody is putting their projects out now and they're much larger than this project. So the big local contractors are all busy at the current time. So it's a good project. David Moorhead has actually received a rendering on the island itself now from the consultant, and I can share that with Mayor and Council after the meeting. However, we will look to re-tender this project in the fall or look for other options to assess how we're going to proceed with the project to make it come to fruition this year. It's not an overly large job, so there is some thought that we may be able to manage it in-house. Ideally, we weren't occupying our staff's time throughout the summer on this, but in the fall, we may be able to manage it. So we will review our options moving forward and present something later on in the year.
Any questions of Chris on that intersection? Not hearing any, then it would be appropriate to have a motion to receive the information as provided.
So moved.
Eleanor, seconded
I'll
by
second that.
Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. And now we will move into grants and aid. If we could have a report or a motion to receive the report as circulated. And then we have two requests.
I'll move receipt.
Okay, moved by Mayor Payson, seconded by
I'll second it, but I have a question.
Carol. Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Okay, so I just wondered, because I know Crow is not probably having any official program, I'm not sure about the Kootenai Learning Center. Are we just mailing the scholarships to the schools, or do we have any idea how we're proceeding on this?
I can speak to that. So we have been in touch with the organizing committees, the scholarship organizing committees. So any scholarships would be delivered. We have been notified of the Jail Crow awards that will come to you following the graduation weekend so that we don't let the cat out of the bag early. We'll have to touch base with the Learning Center to determine what their needs will be, but yes, in this time where we won't be able to do the in-person presentations, the checks will be mailed to the organizing committees for distribution.
Okay, thanks for that update.
All those in favor of receipt?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Next is a request from the Kidney Foundation requesting a cash contribution of $500. Lisa?
As per our policy, this is a Canadian organization versus a provincial or local. So I would like to move 25% of the request. So that's $125.
Second.
We have a motion for 125. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next is a request for property tax exemption from the Trail and District Daycare Society.
Move receipt and file.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
The motion is carried. And next is adjournment and yeah.
I'll move for adjournment.
See you at 6 o'clock. Bye-bye.
See you at 6.
And Lisa, you got my message?
I did. Thank you.
Okay.
Happy birthday to Wendy.
Yeah, we'll do.
Have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye now.